The Life Talk Show is about testimonies where you can listen to be inspired, encouraged, uplifted, and entertained. It's the life. Good morning, everyone. How are you guys doing? Thank you for waking up this morning and starting your morning off with us, or whenever you watch this replay. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining the Life Talk Show. I am your host, Ashley Cotton, and today with me, I have a really good friend of mine. We go way back to San Diego. We're both originally from Chicago, and so we connected maybe 5-6 years ago when we worked at TD Ameritrade together, and she was from Chicago, and I was like, oh, that's what's up. What's going on? And so we instantly just became friends. And so she's here with us to share her testimony. Now, for those who are new to the YouTube channel, for those who are watching, you know that this platform is for one about Revelations 12:11, and we overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. It is so important to be able to begin and share our story with people so they can understand the God that we serve, so they can understand how our relationships are with the Father, because a lot of times people are on the outside looking in, or maybe people need a little bit of encouragement, inspiration to walk out their path, to walk out their life with Jesus. And so we want to display that up close and personal. And no one can ever refute your story when it comes from the source mouth. And so let me just go by that. Micaela Hill was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. She grew up with her mother, stepfather, and 3 siblings. At the age of 14, Micaela's mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. Her mother lost the battle when Micaela was 16 years old. During her senior year of high school, Micaela dropped out due to the dramatic loss of her mother. The trauma opened the door to many things she is now realizing and able to unravel. When her mother passed away, her life changed tremendously, which led to many more dramatic experiences. She entered into an abusive relationship at the age of 17, and a month after turning 19, she had her first child. In her words, she says, having my daughter forced me to remove myself from the abuse, but I still had other issues, poverty being a major one. Micaela had family, but the disease of poverty was prevalent. She received her GED and took community college courses until she enrolled in Northern Illinois University. Still not aware of her depression that was underlining her decisions and inability to grow. Which attending Northern Illinois University, she got pregnant with her second daughter and stopped attending the university. But eventually she did go back to receive her associate's degree and also her Bachelor of Science from the University of Phoenix. Micaela has been in the financial industry since 2006, starting as a teller at TCF Bank, and now she works for Merrill as a registered client associate. And so let's welcome Micaela Hill to the Life Talk Show. Hi. And I know her as Mimi, so I'm going to be referring to her as Mimi. All right. So I want you to just open up and tell us what your journey has been like, even before you came to know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, because a lot of times we feel like we're alone, like we're by ourselves, and no one gets us, no one understands us. And so I always say that this is an even level playing field where people come on this talk show to share their history, to share their past, because we all have one. And the thing of it is to get out of embarrassment, to get out of shame and guilt and defeat that the enemy will put on us to keep us away from what God has for us, our portion, our inheritance. So I just want you to share with us what your journey has been.
Well, I was introduced to God very, very early. My mother dragged us to church every Sunday, every Wednesday from probably, I definitely remember it about 7, but she dragged us to church. So I always had like a basic foundation of, okay, there's a God and, you know, people pray. And I think that honestly, that foundation was kind of the driving force underlying the depression that kind of pushed me forward in life, period. I remember basic things in church were like, you pray, and if two or more are gathered in his name, then, you know, he's in the midst, and that, you know, what you ask, you shall receive. And these are things that I kind of knew. But
Mhm.
when I lost my mom, I forgot. You know, I was like, I went numb, and I couldn't think past what was directly in front of me. I couldn't think past my feelings being hurt, the um my foundation being completely uprooted. Like I couldn't think past that point. But luckily my mother had given me God very, very early.
Okay,
So
and so what was your healing process, because you lost your mother at a very young age due to breast cancer, and the
mhm.
fact that, was there anyone else to step in to take the role as a mother figure to you? Because at this point you have to figure life out on your own, because you don't have that stability or that support from a mother to direct you in life when you hit those pivotal moments.
Yeah, so really, when my mother first initially passed away, me and my family were at odds. Her time in the hospital, there was a lot of anger and aggression, and at 16, I also harbored that anger and aggression. It was my mother, you know, it was kind of like one of those things where I don't know what's going to happen to me, right? And so I
Hmm.
think that my family and their inability to be, I want to say, have emotional maturity for what was happening, or be empathetic to the fact that I was a child, put us at odds. There was a physical altercation where um my aunt and cousin jumped on me. It was really, really bad. And so it took a long, I kind of ran away, and I was staying with a friend, and I was kind of just drifting for a few months, I would say. And then I went home, back to my home with my mom, my home where I lived with my mom and my stepdad and my brothers. But that was completely different. And so I ended up going to stay with one of my aunts. And by that time I was kind of like 17. So I really didn't have anybody to take over as a mother. Um, I don't think I would have allowed it, but I had a place to sleep, you know, and I had people who would allow me to stay there because my aunt loved me. But, you know, she had a lot on her plate too. She had 4 kids. One of her kids had 2 kids. She was living in I want to say, 2-bedroom apartment, and it was all of us, you know? So I mean, I kind of just had to like find little spaces of,
Hmm.
I wouldn't even say comfort, but safety, I guess, and kind
Hmm.
of trying to maneuver my way out of that, you know. As the older I got, you know, kind of trying to figure out, this is not what I want, but this is what I see, and trying to go retrace back to my roots where I knew that there was better. I just couldn't figure out how to get there, you know?
Exactly. And I think that's where a lot of people are like, I know that there's better for me because of the vision or the dream or whatever it is that God placed in me, which is purpose. I know that
Mm-hmm.
there's better for me, but how do I go about doing it? Did you ever have like any mentors or anyone? Because what made you, say, what, I need to go back to get my GED, because
Mm-hmm.
you dropped out of school when you were in your senior year of high school. So you made the decision to say, you know what, small steps, step by step. I need to get my GED. After I get my GED, you enrolled in college to take courses. And then another life situation happened where you ended up getting pregnant, but still that didn't deter you and that didn't stop you, because you received your bachelor's and now you're working full time in the financial industry as a, officer.
Register claim, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, registered client. So Mimi, what was it in you that even though you saw poverty all around you, what was it for you to say, you know what, this is where in my bloodline, this is where I cut it off. This is where this is not my story, but I'm going to create a new story for myself.
Yeah, it was, it was the fact that because I knew something else existed, I went to figure out how to get there, right? I think that I had a lot of mentors in life, and it's not necessarily one specific person that I can name, but I think that every time I had any type of question, I wasn't afraid to ask it. I remember being when I first dropped out of school, I was working at UPS, and then I got, that's when I started the relationship and I had my first daughter. And it was that part where it's like, this can't be her life, right? This can't be her life where I'm working at Walmart as a cashier and I have a daughter. This is not life. So I was like, I have to do better. And I decided that I needed my GED. Not saying that by the time I got it, I was 19. So it was kind of like just a few months of, trauma and doing stuff I had no business, but kind of knowing like, I deserve better than this. And I'm not going to get that if I don't at least have a GED, right? So I went and I got it. Fortunately for me, I had completed almost 4 years of high school and I was pretty smart prior to my trauma. So getting a GED wasn't hard for me. I didn't need to take classes. I just kind of went and took the test. But understanding that if I did need to take classes, I had no problem doing that. And I think that my foundation with my relationship with God told me that if I wanted something bad enough, things would move out the way to make sure I got it. Right. If I wanted
Right.
something bad enough, I would figure out a way. I would find support. I would find the classes. They would be in schedule, what I needed to be, or I would figure out a way to make sure that I can get it if I wanted it bad enough.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that not necessarily is that me, but that is the divine intervention of God that always creates those spaces.
Absolutely. So, one thing I want to highlight is your trauma because a lot of people go through trauma. I've had my childhood trauma, that I had
Mm-hmm.
to work through and unravel, which I wrote a book and it's going to be coming out in December. It's called His Life, My Testimony. And it goes from how I was conceived all the way up into where I am now. So, I'm actually taking people on a journey with my story, but back to trauma, people go through trauma and sometimes the behavior and the patterns of that person going through because the underlying issue is hurt.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's coming from. It's hurt. And you're doing all these things to try to fill a void when really God is the only one who can fill that void for you. And it doesn't matter how far you try to run away from it, how you try to avoid it with substance abuse or with retail therapy and all the things that we do to numb or to suppress what's really going on within us. What was your point when you had to face your heart issues and really deal with them at the root?
Ironically, it really happened recently, like really kind of sitting down and being quiet. I had the urge maybe
Now,
a
let me just
few.
ask this, Mimi, how old are you? Because you just said it happened recently. So how old were you?
I am 35. So I want to say within the last 3 years it happened. I started having this urge to sit still because I was, like you said, I was filling my time with things that were counterproductive to the life I thought I wanted. I was um entering in relation I was in relationships just kind of wasting time and that weren't really going anywhere. I was I like to shop. I really do. I still do. um I was talking to people, and if I told you, I have to tell her, and I'd have to tell her. And I had this strong urge and said, "You have to sit down. This is not. You have to sit down. You have to stop. This is not going to take you where you want to go." And it's like you get frustrated with being frustrated, right? And what you have to stop and say is like, I'm frustrated because I'm not taking the time to really pay attention to what is bothering me. It's not, the kids are yelling. It's not, um, th- these things are a manifestation of what's going on inside of you, right? Like I said, poverty
Mhm.
was a big issue. because I was depressed and I did not know it. And because I kept trying to find things to occupy my time, because I knew I felt uneasy. I knew I felt anxiety. And I think like the more I tried to push myself to advance in my career, I realized it was kind of like I had to recognize that I had self-sabotaging behavior, right? Like you mentioned, I had my daughter when I did get enrolled into a university, like I got my GED and then I had community college and then I was like, I'm at a university, I had this self-sabotaging behavior and I stopped and I said, why every time do I feel like I'm going to like make it? Does something get in my way that slows me down? And so I started praying and then I started researching like anxiety and things like that and things that I could do to help myself. And I started meditating and exercising because people, said like these are things that they help, release the energy in you, And I thought of, and that
Mhm.
was one of the things. It was like you have energy in you, and that energy is going to come out one way or another. And the trick is you get to choose. You get to choose if it's going to be in a positive manner or a negative manner. People who do not understand the energy usually it manifests itself into something counterproductive, something negative. And it's because they don't realize they have the choice. I don't have to get angry about this. I can say, I didn't like how that felt. How do I make sure I never experience this again? And it's little bitty questions like that, or little bitty inspirations like that, that helped me change my life around. And I don't know if it was because I had God early, and inevitably I returned to God. When my mother passed away, I was angry at God, which is probably how I ended up in so many bad situations. I was
Let's
angry.
Mimi, let's talk about that because this is very interesting. You said that you would self-sabotage yourself whenever you got to the brink of success, whenever you got to the brink of breakthrough. How many people can relate to that? That every time you hit a plateau, that something happens and it's like, oh, so is it self-sabotage or is just the enemy coming in to shipwreck you? And then also, the next point that you made was dang it, what was it? What was the point that you just made?
I
It
was
was
angry with
really
God.
good. Yes, you were angry with God because we feel like, we can't be angry. And that's some of the questions that I asked my previous guests, like whenever they had hit rock bottom and everything, like be truthful and really honest and just open and transparent. Sometimes we do get angry with God because why did this have to happen? Why did this person have to pass away? Or why didn't this promotion come through for me when I was really praying? I mean, I was really believing you, God, and I was, putting everything aside and making you first. And this very thing that I asked, this very thing that I really wanted was my heart desire. And you denied me of it. You didn't give it to me. And yeah, so what did the Father say to you? And I want you to tell us once we come back from break, because we're going to take a quick break. And I want you to tell us, what did the Father say to you when you were angry with him? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hey, it's your girl Ashley, and if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on social media. Be sure to share, like, tag, and follow. Okay, so we are back with Miss Micaela, Mimi, and she was just about to tell us before the break how did God deal with her? How did he meet her where she was, even in the midst of this must be a powerful testimony for somebody to be free when they watch this. So listen, but go ahead, Mimi. We got to keep it rolling. We're
No.
not giving him no credit.
I think that it was what I realized is that God never leaves, right? I was angry at God. And so I say that it's self-sabotage because God is listening to your prayers, and he is always, it has been my experience, he has always created a space for me to have peace and to have joy. And I have chosen to ignore those, or I've chosen things that I knew were not in my best interest, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
that when I remember being a teenager and putting myself in situations that I had no business being. One time drinking with my friend, we 16, hanging out with some grown man, and I was in a situation where this guy kept trying to kiss me. Thank God I was removed from the situation unharmed, and some type of way I got like, I was able to, whatever drinking had done, I got out of that real quick when he, got inappropriate. But I think that it's things like that where it's like, I knew I wasn't supposed to be there. I knew I wasn't.
Mhm.
And God still made a way for me to come out. And if you look at it, it's God's way of saying, I love you, and I have to let you do what you say you want to do, but I'm always, it's like a parent, like I told you not to go over there, but when you're ready, I'm here, and I
Yeah.
think that's the unconditional part of God. When I was angry with God, I think I more so turned my back on him than he turned his back on me. And that is and when that happens, you don't look for the blessings. You continue to look at the negative, and you continue to encounter negative experiences because that is what you continue to focus on. I was so consumed in my depression that I couldn't see that maybe somebody would have helped me. I had an aunt many years later say, I told them, let her come to me, but I was so consumed in my anger and trauma that conversation didn't happen to so many years later where it was no longer needed. I think that when you have things that you pray for and you say, please, because one of the things I can relate is like when my mother was sick, I prayed like, God, please don't let her die. And so when it happened, I was angry, right? But what I realized is that, you can say it's because of it's how I found peace in myself. Whatever that relationship was with God, and my mother was with God and my mother. And they had an understanding that was beyond my comprehension. They had an understanding that was beyond my anything that I could have ever imagined. And maybe she was tired. I have to understand that just because I want something, that is not what the ultimate glorification was. And her presence in my life, though brief, served the purpose that it was supposed to. And as much as I wasn't ready to let it go, there was something else that I needed to do. And I truly believe that whatever journey that I am on and that I've been through was for the glorification of something bigger than myself. And
Mhm.
if I continue to focus on that part, I continue to have many blessings in my life. And it wasn't until I recognized that, like, you don't have to look at the negative. You don't have to accept whatever somebody is giving you. You don't have to just say, this is what everybody else is doing, so I can join in. That little voice that say, I think I can have better, that's God. And it's just kind of like when you don't get what you want, it's not because God is denying you of that blessing. It's because you don't understand that there are things in there that maybe you don't need to experience, that it's not what you think it is, and God is going to give you what you want, just not the way you think you want it.
Right. That's really good, and that's really rich, because through it all, he does say, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And even when you chose the things of the flesh, because that's what it is, when you choose the things of the flesh versus going after the spirit and pursuing the Father, because of our mind, will, and emotions, which is our soul, that the grace of God, the sovereignty of God, the mercy of God, not to allow you to pretty much saving you from yourself. That when we put ourselves in dire situations, he's right there. And it could have went completely left, but it didn't. And that's because of the fact that he has you in the palm of his hand. That's because the prayers of your mother and your grandmother, whoever that's praying for you and interceding for you, he honors those prayers. Man,
Yeah.
God is so good. He really, really is. Because if you can look back over your life and look at the thread of your life and the things that you can reflect back on from the past and say, wow, what was I thinking about? Why did I do that? And you can see the sovereignty, God's hand covering you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's enough to give him glory. That's enough to do a praise break and to say thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Mimi, where are you right now today? Like, as far as your girls, like, I'm sure that you are an incredible mother. You are an example to your girls because you have three, that are looking at you and watching you. So the fact that, how old was your mom when she passed away?
My mother was 37 when she passed away. So I am
And
2 years younger.
Yeah, so you're 2 years younger. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to surpass that. I really
Mm-hmm.
believe that. But what, like, how do you feel now as a mother and you're approaching 2 years from when your mom passed away and just being with your girls? Like, what do you instill in them? What do you say to them?
I'm very lucky because I have my daughter, my oldest daughter is 16 now, and it is the exact age I was when I lost mine. And so I get to be the person that I needed, right? So it's like full circle for me now. Like we have this, it's a different type of relationship. Because she was with me most like when I was stumbling and bumping my head and trying to figure it out. And now, and I have my 10-year-old and then I have a 5-year-old, and now it's pretty much like I allow them to express their feelings even if we don't agree. I want you to be able to tell me how you feel, and we can come to something, like at least you got it out. It's not not necessarily do I always agree. But I allow them to communicate. I allow them to set boundaries. I instill in them value because I think that those are things that I was lacking, right? I lost value for myself. I lost the ability to communicate how I felt because I felt like I had nobody that was listening to me. I got lost and consumed in depression, and I want them to be able to talk, to at least be able to communicate, to understand themselves, to understand their feelings, to be able to, and once they understand that, they can make better decisions. Why am I feeling this way? And if I'm feeling this way,
Hmm.
am I going to do something that's counterproductive to what I ultimately want? I make sure they focus on their ultimate goal and not just instant gratification.
Hmm.
um and I'm just trying to lead by example, like you
Yeah.
can go through hard times, but that is no, don't let that consume you. Don't let that block your blessing. Don't say, oh, this happened to me. No, okay, that happened to me, but that does not devalue who I am, and I still deserve what I deserve. I deserve what I want, and let nothing stand in your way.
Hmm. That's great
And
advice.
yeah. And through that, knowing that God will open doors for you, right? Just because, and it's not, understanding that because it doesn't happen the exact way you want it to happen does not mean that it's not for you. Like there were plenty of signs in every situation that I've ever been in that said, don't go that way, girl. Don't go that way. And it's like, but I want this. I told you not to go that way. And when I got there and I ultimately got what I wanted, it was terrible, and I had to retract and start over again. But now, kind of listening to myself and being, and letting God guide me, whether people call it, call God or a spirit. There is some internal instinct that guides you to peace and love. And if you continue to seek those types of interactions will continue to manifest in your life. If you always seek love, how can I make this better? Showing up for yourself every single day, those are the things that change your life around.
And also, when you speak about, that whatever you're praying for, whatever the desires of your heart, it doesn't mean that God is not going to give them to you,
Mm-hmm.
but also He wants us to be ready to receive it.
Absolutely.
Because if we step into it too early, we can sabotage it. And then what? Then you have to
It's
start over from ground zero, or you have to suffer those consequences of it not being ready, and his timing is perfect. And so it's like we have to go within ourselves to do the work to be able to be ready to receive what he has for us, because if we step into it too prematurely, it can wreck our lives. And then what?
Absolutely. That is one of the biggest things. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is that because I want it doesn't mean that I'm ready for it, right? And there's growth and there's steps that you need to take. You can say you want to be a doctor, but if I give you a scalpel and tell you to go into an operating room, you're gonna mess some stuff up real bad. So
Real bad. You slice it and dice it. You like, Lord have mercy. No, that's not what we doing up in here.
And that is exactly how life is. It's like, do the work on yourself. One of my biggest things, like I said, was poverty, and realizing that one of the reasons I kept experiencing it was because I didn't believe I deserved the peace of financial security. And it's like that in every to me, it's like that in every aspect of your life. If you're in relationships and they don't seem to be going right, you should probably check yourself and know that not necessarily is it you, but you also get to create the space that you allow people to be in. Like, you get to create those rules. Like, you can't come here with whatever you have. I get to save this space, you know? And being patient with yourself and understanding just because you didn't get it the first time, do not let bitterness and anger seep into your soul, because those are the true killers of joy. That anger and bitterness and depression and all those things will rob you of any type of dreams or goals you could ever even imagine to have.
So let's shift gears for one moment, Mimi. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to talk to the people who have lost loved ones, especially with this whole COVID-19 situation. What do you say to those who have lost a void in their life? You know, whether it's their wife, their husband, their child, their mom or dad. And that was, they depended on that person as their rock, like that person was their everything. And now they have come to a new transition of not having them. What do you say to them?
That's a hard one because everybody processes grief differently. I say look for small moments of joy, look for happiness in any way that you can, even if it's just a little, even if it's reflecting on the life you had with that person, and try to focus on all the good that that person was able, that you were able to share with that person in your life. And if you focus on those loving moments or those joys, things like that, you'll be able to kind of get through it. You know, unfortunately, death hits us all and it's unavoidable. The timing we can debate about, because I'm pretty sure we can all argue it wasn't time for any person we love to go. But that is not your struggle. That is the relationship with that person and God and their understanding with God. And once you realize, like, that person was in my life to shed light, and now that that person is gone does not mean that that light diminishes, right? It doesn't mean that that light just goes out. It's just, you know, I'm sad that person is gone, but what joy did I have with that person? And being able to continue to, like, use those as pickups, and you know, until you're able to go out into the world and be okay. Time heals everything. It truly, truly does. Give
Yes,
it
it
time.
does.
Give it time. And be
Mm-hmm.
patient with yourself. If you gonna have days where you relapse and it's like, you know, still angry with God, but give it time and try to be conscious of your decisions and make sure you're not doing anything that's counterproductive to the future, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are the things that kind of helps me. Like, if I had given myself time, had sat down and said, this happened to me and it's sad and it hurts. And that's okay. You know, it's okay that you're hurt. It's okay that you're in pain. That's natural. Forgiving yourself and not, and because you recognize the pain, not pushing that pain on other things in your life, you know, allowing yourself to be sad and then finding little moments of happiness in between.
And going through the process of it, like being in it, going through the process of it, and this too shall pass, and
It
it will
does.
pass.
It
But
does.
just ignoring it is not going to go away, because eventually it's going to resurface itself and you're going to have to deal with it later
Mm-hmm.
on down the line, or you can deal with it right there at the root. So as soon as the seed is planted, deal with it at the root. And that goes across the board with anything. You get
Mm-hmm.
fired from a job. How does it make you feel? What's next? What do you need to do? What lesson did you need to learn from it? Start at the very root instead of it taking root and growing into a harvest of something that you do not even want in your life. So that's good. So next, we're going to hit Mimi with the hot track of the fire rapid questions, and we're going to take a quick break.
Hi, my name is Ashley Cotton, and I'm the host for the Life Talk Show, where people come on to this platform to share their stories, to share their testimonies based off of Revelation 12:11. And I would love for you to share with our audience your heartfelt story. What has God done for you that maybe no one else knows, but you want to give Him the glory since it's about your relationship with Him? Please, you can contact me directly at
All right, Mimi, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. First question. What is your favorite Bible verse of scripture?
I don't know. I don't know. You getting me all. You put me on the spot, Ashley. Um, Asking you shall receive. No, I'm sorry.
And if you don't know, it's okay because everyone
I don't.
is at different levels with their walk with Jesus, you know? And so there's those who are Bible scholars and then there's those who are not. But I do encourage, everyone to, read it and just thumb through it and really study to show, ourselves approved. Number 2, how do you get into the presence of the Lord?
I meditate. I wake up every morning and I make sure it's quiet in my house and I allow myself to just start talking to God because I recognize that if I'm not having a conversation with God, then my mind can wander into things that I don't necessarily want it to. So having that peace in the morning and having that opportunity to have the conversation kind of quiets my mind down throughout the day so that I feel like I have God's presence with me all day.
Number 3, what do you think heaven is like?
I think heaven is just an overwhelming sensation of peace and joy. I think that it is a presence of complete gratitude and just well-being in every aspect.
Number 4, who would you like to meet in heaven? It could be from the Old Testament or New Testament.
It can be somebody from my family.
Yes, and it could be a loved one that passed away as well.
I would like to meet I would like to meet my grandmother. I actually would.
Now, did you know your grandmother?
I knew her very briefly. I was 6 years old when she passed away. So the things that I remember, I would like to know who she was as a person, right? As an adult woman, the decisions that guided her, I would like to know that person.
Okay, and last question. Given the opportunity in a quiet, small, intimate setting where God manifests himself to you face to face, what would you say to him?
I would say thank you. I would say thank you. Thank you for allowing me to learn the lessons that I learned the way I needed to learn them in order for reform to happen, in order to be guided back to you.
That's awesome, Mimi. So I'm going to turn it over to you and you can say whatever is on your heart to speak to the audience.
Okay. I would just say, hard times are very difficult for everybody to deal with. I think that no matter who you are or where you are, different things can affect you and some things are traumatic. And I think that in society, we tend to downplay other people's traumas or that was nothing, but that's not true. And your life is your life. And as soon as you're able to whatever affects you, as soon as you're consciously aware of the negative ways that things affect you, the sooner you'll be able to change those things, right? Like somebody could cut me off in traffic and it affects me negatively. But what am I going to do with that energy? Am I going to carry that on into now I'm going to work or now I'm interacting with my children or now I'm interacting with somebody at the grocery store, whatever, but consciously being aware of when something is negatively affecting you and being able to sort through it or being able to stay with yourself until you're able to find peace before you go out and start messing other things up, right? Because you can't continue to carry pain around. And I'm not one to say, deal with it right now. Be consciously aware that you're sad or that you're mad and start there, and when you recognize that, being able to look for ways to resolve those issues, resolve the sadness. Maybe you're sad, you don't know why you're sad, or maybe you're anxious and you don't know why you're anxious, but sitting with yourself, maybe start a journal or, get a prayer partner, but quieting your mind in some type of way to be able to deal with your feelings will be have a tremendous positive effect on your life and the people around you. Growth is a very difficult process. Being patient with yourself. You don't know everything. And people who try to make you feel bad about not knowing something or feeling a certain type of way, those are not good people, right? Because
Right.
everybody has their struggles. Everybody has their stuff. And if you're going to pass judgment on somebody else because you can't identify with them, then you got other stuff you probably need to do with your own self. You need to, negativity in any aspect is rooted in pain.
Mm-hmm.
And recognizing that too. Say, not internalizing when somebody is negative to you, recognizing that when you didn't get something, there is another lesson you needed to learn, or it's time for you to grow. Like, if you feel like it's time for you to grow and you're blocked by whatever outside influence you feel is blocking you, recognize that maybe you just don't need to go that way. Maybe you need to go around, maybe you need to go back, something, but not harboring bitterness. Like I said, any type of negative, bitterness, fear, anger, sadness are all normal feelings, but will all kind of lead you to make decisions that are not necessarily in your best interest. And so being able to recognize them and be conscious of it and try to control how your next steps goes that is not rooted in that pain,
Mm-hmm. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those who are watching and will watch the replay, I just want to leave you with this, that listen, we all are on this life journey and we want to finish strong. We want to continue to run our race. And at the end of our life, we want to hear, good job. Wait a minute. What's the scripture? Well done, my good and faithful servant. That's what we want to hear. And God is Alpha and Omega. He's the beginning and the end. And then there's this middle part, right? So within this middle part of life, I encourage you all to just stay strong. We're all going through our own thing, but guess what? You don't have to go with it alone or by yourself, because he says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. I always want to point you back in the direction of Jesus Christ. I always want you to triumph and be strong and courageous and inspired with your life. Everyone has a story, and I'm so grateful for those who are willing to come on this platform and share their story to encourage someone else, to say, hey, guess what? You're not in this alone. And hopefully you can take something from it and move forward. And so with that said, thank you all for watching. Also, I will be back next Saturday with another guest. So share, like, and subscribe, and get the notifications on YouTube, and tell somebody to tell somebody to tell somebody about it. Okay. So God bless you all. I will see you next Saturday, and enjoy the rest of your day.